Welcome back. And what now? Oh, okay.
We're going to do some more gardening, I guess.
Let's see.
Welcome back to Princess Not Mononoke.
Not Mononoke?
Well, they're still cute in this form.
You know, come to think of it, since we were comparing this to Zelda games, I feel like Majora's Mask did have something of an environmental message as well.
Well, Majora's Mask was more about, you know, depressing, coming to terms with death, and like a lot of different things.
No. Okay, no. Is it supposed to be a dia? Or
okay. That was one of the themes, but that wasn't like the main soul one. Like a lot of people misremember Majora's Mask and think, oh, it's all about dealing with death and something. Like, yes, death was one of it, but it wasn't the leading factor like a lot of people think it was. Like, it's just that a lot of people tend to remember Termina a lot. Well, I mean, sorry, it's just that a lot of people tend to remember the quests surrounding the living and the dead more than the other ones. My particular favorite one is dealing with the aliens, who may or may not have probed one of the
Actually, Jova, the aliens shows up only in Ocarina of Time.
No, Teo. He's talking about the aliens in Majora's Mask that attack Romani Ranch.
Doesn't that happen in...
No, Teo, that's Majora's Mask.
Yeah, that is Majora's Mask.
In Ocarina, it's Lon Ranch. In Majora, it's Romani Ranch, too.
It's like how people tend to mistake the girls in Majora's Mask for
it wasn't a matter of the girls. I remember that was talking just specifically about the aliens.
No, I wasn't talking about you. I was talking about how people tend to mistake the girls, you know, on the ranch in Majora's Mask for Malon from Ocarina of Time, when, no, they're different characters.
That's because... Allow me. That's because that game was actually produced over the course of a year. Miyamoto even talked about it in one of those Iwata asks from back in the day. The idea was to see if they could make a new Zelda game that was originally going to take place in Hyrule as well. However, when Koizumi joined the project, and he had the idea of creating the alternate dimension Termina thing, and he had all the more depressing elements from that story came from him. And if you've played Link's Awakening, which was also written by him, that's not much of a surprise.
So originally Termina was supposed to be an alternate dimension, so that's why those two girls look exactly like Malon.
It's because, Jova, it's basically an in-plot excuse to use the exact same character models, because we only have 1 year to make this game, basically.
It's also similar to what Insomniac did for certain Cranberries apart, being, you know, having alternate dimensions and everything. They could recycle a lot of models from the.
That's why the game.
remake.
That's why the game is one of the shortest Zelda games with only 4 dungeons. Because the idea was, okay, we only have 4 dungeons in a smaller world. So what do? Make the world way more dense than any of the other Zelda games. As in, it's a small world, but there's so much to do in it. There's so many characters with their own full stories. You know, like.
I will admit, one of the flaws I've always found with Majora's Mask is like, well, and mind you, this isn't something that even really hurts the game, but it's like, when you think about it, even though you will learn a lot about these characters, even though you will get to know them very well, essentially, canonically, you can't really have done or known all of this, considering how some of the quests takes all of 3 days, and well, given how you know when the 3 days are up, the world ends, so you have to go back. Effectively, when you go back, that stuff technically has never happened now.
Yeah, that's the point. You can't save everybody.
Yeah. Well, Judd, if it helps you...
My issue with Majora's Mask. I wish the countdown had started after you played the Song of Time.
Well, here's the thing about... Well, here's the thing, Joe. If it helps you, when you do all the quests in Majora's Mask... the credits roll does change depending on what quests you did and didn't do. Like, for example, if you do Anju and Kafei's quest and manage to get them married by the end of the cycle, you'll see a shot of Anju in a wedding dress taking someone's hand, which is obviously Kafei. So the game does still provide closure in a way that, maybe you ending the cycle of destruction maybe allowed for them to get married just on different circumstances. So the game does technically still imply that the good stuff does still happen, just differently, because you altered Termina's fate.
Then there's the one with the aliens, though. Like, well, I mean, I assume that if you don't deal with that,
yes,
technically, whether or not you save the world, someone's getting probed by aliens so much that it pretty much does things to that girl's head.
Okay, well, to be fair, the aliens are after the cows. Yes, and I don't get the whole thing with aliens and cows. They're after the cows.
It's a common cliche from the 50s.
The point is that the aliens actually are here to kidnap the cows, like in Earthworm Jim too. And yes, they do something to Romani. We never find out what exactly they do to her, but yeah, she looks like she's been lobotomized after that night if you don't help her. So yeah,
brainwashing.
That's the thing too.
Yeah,
for all we know,
probably one of the lighter ones, possibilities.
Indeed. Fox hat. Not the cat one. We'll get the cat one later.
So tell me,
Fox is plenty good enough.
Yes, Jova?
Tell me, what does the fox really say?
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
no. Fuck you.
This is worse than what I posted.
What year is it? You. Oh my god.
But to answer you seriously, they kind of do this yelping noise. It's kind of weird. It's not the noise you'd expect them to make, but anyway.
Dej, you just love the game.
Tio, now you can leave.
Yes.
I don't even get it. I don't know what he's referencing.
When you're older, son.
You don't want to know. Anyway, here's another Zelda-style puzzle.
He knows about it now. It's too late.
No, I still don't. I'm gonna pretend.
Okay. What did you want to tell us, Pedro?
Basically, notice how every time I hit one of these rocks, it creates this magical trail. So there you go. And notice how there was a little ticking sound, meaning there's a time limit. So that's the game's way of telling you how that gimmick works, because you're going to have harder versions of that gimmick later on.
Ah, the Forgotten Forest. Spooky.
Don't you mean the Lost Woods?
And now lore, kind of.
Long been forgotten, but their work still remains. Watching over the forest like ancient guardians. Taro's spirit has corrupted the shrines and sealed the entrance to the guardian tree. I can feel Taro's presence there. I've marked the shrine locations on your map.
That's handy.
I'll work to clean the shrines.
So yeah, the next mission, Taro's Love. Basically, here's how the various relics work. They always represent some kind of quality of the person we're trying to save. The knife represented bravery, and now we're up to finding a relic that represents Taro's love. What exactly is it? Well, we'll have to get and see what it is.
Maybe it's a lantern.
Possibly, considering he was holding a lantern when we saw his spirit briefly earlier. Who knows?
Lanterns do hold, in some cases, the feelings of compassion, warmth, in a sense, which can be tied into love.
Sure, that's one possible way you can do it. Okay, so like Rizzo said, we have 3 shrines. In order to get this next relic, we have to solve 3 shrines. Again, operating on Zelda logic, the most traditional form of Nintendo game design philosophy, the rule of 3.
Okay, even assuming that maybe there's going to be some nightmare fuel along the way, I do appreciate that this story that is about, death and whatnot isn't overtly spooky or anything. Oh, sure, yeah, you can maybe still find nightmare fuel in this and whatnot. But, I do wonder if maybe it was their intent to portray it in a way that looks cute enough to help people, not always, demonize the concept of death.
Which is ironic, considering, again, the main source of inspiration, Majora's Mask, is considered one of the darkest Zelda games.
Well, totally. That's one of the big reasons why I would love for Koizumi to write another Zelda game, because I would love to have another Zelda game with a story like that. Because it's just so cool compared to the more vanilla storylines Onuma usually gives us.
I like Twilight Princess's story.
Sure, Twilight Princess is a nice effort. I will give you that. I have my issues with it, but I will admit it's a nice effort. But that's exactly my point. I kind of want Zelda games to. I usually prefer Zelda stories when they're not just doing the Ocarina of Time model of stuff. That's basically my point.
You mean a link to the past?
If that helps you, sure.
I feel like Twilight Princess had enough diversifying it.
Sure.
Give you this on some other ones though.
Like I'm also still butthurt that we didn't get the Wind Waker 2 Onuma was originally going to make, but whatever.
So how do you feel about what's that one Zelda game? You know, the one that's the origin of the entire timeline.
Skyward Sword.
Skyward Sword.
Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
I love Skyward Sword actually. I actually love Skyward Sword. First of all, it has Groose in it. Any game that has Groose in it is clearly doing something right. I mean, come on.
Just one game. He was so good that they never used him again.
Well, that's the thing.
I think he showed up again in Hyrule Warriors.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Hold on. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. That okay. So here's the thing. That Skyward Sword was the main game before Breath of the Wild. So it's not like there's been that many time spent in terms of how many games have come out since. Not to mention, it wouldn't make not to mention, considering the timeline, it wouldn't even make any sense for Groose to be in Breath of the Wild, unless of course you do one of those, you know, he's one of Groose's descendants or something like that. You know?
Exactly. It doesn't matter. There are multiple versions of Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf.
Oh, sure.
It's funny considering back when Skyward Sword was in development, people speculated that Groose was supposed to be a younger version of Ganondorf, and he was going to become, the villain at the end. But nope.
I think people really want a Zelda game where it's like Link and Ganondorf
look.
best friends until tragedy stuff.
You'd be surprised, Edge. People still made Pan in 2015.
Groose is basically the Zelda series' equivalent of Bulk. He starts off as a funny but still a bully, but over the course of the game, he like his arc overall is actually pretty well handled considering the circumstances.
I'll admit, Groose really is a big fan.
He's actually one of my favorite Zelda characters, actually. And now with Skyward Sword HD, which did such a great job adding quality of life improvements, a lot of people have now played or replayed Skyward Sword HD and gained a new appreciation for what Skyward Sword was trying to do. So, I'm at the very least, at the very least, now I feel a bit more.
You already hit a Skyward Sword, so you're kind of boned.
Also. While Groose himself didn't show up in Hyrule Warriors, the Groosenators did.
All right.
So yeah, that was cool. Yeah. Honestly, I'm surprised Groose wasn't playable or even showed up in Hyrule Warriors.
Okay, to be fair, I kind of understand why. Because while Groose did have the Groosenator, he didn't actually physically fight anything. So you can make an argument that maybe he's not.
Pedro.
Yes.
They made a moveset out of Tingle. They could have easily.
Excuse me. Are you dissing Tingle right now?
No, I'm not American, Pedro.
Oh yeah, that's a character that has multiple incarnations of him.
Yeah. Well, think of Tingle. Deji, let me put it this way. Think of Tingle as what would be like a good equivalent. Okay. Think of him like the match announcer from Metabots. You know, he's always there mysteriously somehow. He's kind of a running gag, basically.
They even dedicated him 2 exclusive games on Nintendo DS.
Well, clearly
more games Zelda has.
That is true.
Check out the Space Hamster's review of those. They're pretty interesting for how weird they are.
Well, Deji, there's always Zelda's Adventure on the CDI.
Ooh.
Yeah, just one game. That's the thing that has the
CDI had 2. Those Zelda's Adventure and the Wand of Gamelon.
That is true, actually. Yeah, that is true. I forgot about it.
I was gonna be like, if you want to be technical, Toad has more games than Peach has.
But that's the thing that I don't know, Deji. That's
Captain Toad and Wario's Woods.
Wasn't Peach's game really good though?
Who's gonna tell her?
The only thing that I know that someone joked about the fact that the MacGuffin of that game can be misinterpreted as a vibrator. Apparently,
it is.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Because
I know, right?
Okay,
We'll just confuse this well.
Let me explain. So the weapon that Bowser has is called the Scepter of Vibes, and after you defeat him, it's like, where'd Scepter go? Maybe it's in your mom's room. Maybe your sister has it. Who knows?
And Zeroy, may I remind you, Peach's main weapon in the game are mood swings.
Yep.
That's a game that can never be.
To be fair,
Sure. She literally eats people with that umbrella.
Oh, let's talk about the umbrella, because it was actually a human boy that got transformed into it, and it seems like there was a plot element that goes completely unresolved.
Yeah.
And again,
anyway,
Can you tell I've only heard good things about this game without having
Alright,
actually
yes,
seen
It's
it?
not a
Because
bad
what the
game, it's just
fuck?
weird.
I'll admit, okay.
And yes, Pedro?
so yeah, the next relic is actually somewhere on the top of a big tree house, as you can see. So
It's a
Oh, get to
Nintendo
climbing
treehouse.
then. The Beats game isn't terrible. It's weird though.
that's the thing, Jova. I honestly, I like Nintendo the best when they're being weird. To be honest with you.
Again,
Again,
you
again.
ever mentioned... Sorry, go on.
Of all
Again,
the
it's
things
the-
I've heard when people talk about that game, it was none of what you just said.
I'm amazed you have not heard those jokes given literally about Peach having to steal Bowser's vibrator.
No!
And again, may I remind you, she spends most of that game eating people using an umbrella. Peach is more or less selling that.
So basically, what you're selling.
Very emotional.
So basically, what you're saying, Jov, is that in that game, Peach is Megan. No, she's Megan Fox in Jennifer's Body. So,
Oh my god.
if you don't know what Jennifer's Body is, it's it's a movie from 2009 where Megan Fox is a succubus. I'm not kidding.
Huh.
And then the official Brat Twitter account referenced it recently. I'm like, what?
What, the game or the movie?
The movie.
Basically, to remember, Joe, back in the late 2000s, early 2010s, one of the things that Hollywood was exploiting was Megan Fox's sex appeal, basically.
Yeah.
At least they didn't exploit that in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I guess.
Well, considering
Yes,
that...
they did. Yes, they did. I need Joa. Let's rewatch that when you get the chance, and I will point out the scenes when they do that.
Okay. I haven't seen that movie in a while, but I don't remember the movie, her first shot being literally a shot where we just show her ass while she's fixing a motorcycle.
No, no, but she was doing jumping jacks, and she was doing squats as a result on a trampoline.
I'll have
And
to...
then there's the scene when she was recording something, and she was sticking out of the truck, and Will Arnett is like, April, get in, and then he looks at her like, nope, keep going.
I mean, I don't really recall that movie sexualizing her. Really?
It's more tamed, but it was there.
I guess. I'll have to watch it again for myself. I don't even remember that.
From what I do recall, the sequel is a lot better, actually.
I haven't seen the sequel, but someday. Alright, so...
Oh, what's next?
Okay, now that we've cured all of this... Well, remember, this is one of the shrines, so we have to first do all the shrines. Remember, rule of three. If there's one thing that's consistent in Nintendo game design, is the rule of three. We start link. I'll use Link to the Past since Deji mentioned it. And Link to the Past. We need to get all the we can get all the jewels. A red one, a green one, and a blue one. Then we can get the Master Sword. See, like it's typical. Gotta get the rule of three is one of the most common things. Like in Mario games, most Mario games bosses have always 3 hits to defeat. Like it's always the rule of three. All right, And there we go. That now with the tree shrine done, let's just continue. There we are. All right. What else is in here? Ooh. There we are. Basically, over the course of the game, you'll find plenty of either rocks or lanterns that shine with a blue glow. And if you shoot them, you get some more jewels. So make sure to do that. There we are. 23. We need to get to 45 to get to the next level. There we are. Oh, a cursed chest. But first let's get some fruit.
You know what that means? We have to fight our way in.
Exactly. Yes, yes, Taro, you were saying?
No, I'm checking something in the meantime since I am a bit curious about it.
Defeat 5 enemies in 40 seconds.
Where's the last one? Where's the last one? There it is.
Well, actually, there's still 4 more to go. Now 3.
Yeah.
It shows there on the right below the counter. So.
Do you get another chance to do this?
You can retry the challenge as many times as you want. Don't worry. And there we go. Only one more. What? Fortunately, it's a tiny one, and there we are.
Good job.
And there we go. This is actually the playthrough that you're watching is actually my third run. I played all the way throughout on the PS5 first, then I played it all the way in the PS4, so I could see how the PS4 version is. And this recorded playthrough is actually my third playthrough.
Very nice.
There we are. So, Teo, what exactly are you checking?
The trophy list and generally how people behave with it, because I was curious about how much do you need to complete everything, and it seems interesting. While the general
hold on, Teo, I have to explain this. Notice those candles. 1 candle on the top right, 3 candles at the bottom right, 2 candles at the bottom left, 4 candles on the top left. So
what could this mean?
So 1, 2,
counting with Pedro,
3, and 4.
Yeah, I don't like this Squirm spinoff.
There we are.
It's not for our
Basically, if you get the order wrong, you have to fight 2 butterfly enemies. There we are. It's actually the easier of the shrines. It's classic environmental puzzle. There you go.
The children in Taro often fished in these streams. In the stillness of the forest, I can almost hear their voices.
Which also explains why he himself can't cross over either, because he's probably feeling guilty over that he couldn't save Taro. So yeah, gotta save.
Reaction.
Looks like we really need to save Taro, so all of these people can finally rest easy. Speaking of Taro, here's another memory of his.
There are several worn
Let's have a look.
here. Simple design, but effective.
There we are. The primary, plot-wise, that's the primary function of the mask, so we can check into his spirit. There we go. So yeah, it really is like Russo said. They used to come here to fish together. Alright, and we get 50 skill points out of it. Thanks. So yeah, like I said, the game does give you a gameplay incentive to search for these optional bits of foreshadowing. So be sure to try and get them.
Don't tell me his demonic form is going to be a fish now because of that.
Surprisingly not. Well, that would require it to be an underwater fight, and Kina can swim, but only on the surface. She doesn't actually have underwater swimming mechanics.
Also, while taking inspiration from Zelda, I'm pretty sure they had the wise idea to not having an equivalent to the water temple.
Well, actually, the latest shrine that we have missing right now is the water shrine. Although, yes, it's not underwater. No.
handy.
Oh, look, Jova, a lantern cave. Maybe you were correct. But like he said, we need to get the final shrine before that portal opens, so let's get to it. Yeah. So, like I said, look, unfortunately, like Rizzo said, he marked all the shrines on the map, so don't worry, you should be able to find them just fine as long as you make good use of the map screen. So you should be fine. And yeah, as you can see, this is actually one of the areas in the game that's a bit more open. The game actually does have, even though the progression itself is linear, as the game goes on, the areas you're exploring get wider. So there is so the game is not always-esque in its design. It still has plenty of wider areas full of things to find and poke around. So and it gets even wider in the second chapter. So.
I'm guessing when it comes to exploring or trying to find certain items, it's normally in the wider areas where you can search around as opposed to the narrow path in between each one.
For the most part, yes. Although even the narrow paths do occasionally have their small detours that can lead to something. But yeah, you're basically.
Do you ever say it gets to the point of pixel hunting?
Not really, no. I would. The game fortunately did a really good job of making the solutions for everything very intuitive. And like I said, most of the exploration in this game is just for optional trinkets anyway. If you want to progress through the main story and do just that and not bother with any stat stuff, you can still do that very fine because the main story stuff is very straightforward and self-explanatory.
Of course, I'll admit when I was asking about pixel hunting, I was mainly asking about the extra stuff.
No. Well, no, not really. Even the extra stuff is pretty straightforward, to be honest with you. No, not really, no. You're fine. You should be fine.
That's good to know. Their stones are buried deep. I wonder, has there ever been a game that's actually made good use out of pixel hunting where you know it's actually been a good feature?
I don't... To be perfectly honest with you, I can't name one. I mean, that's what pixel hunting to me is one of the to me is just something that just shouldn't happen. Like even back in the 80s, it was annoying with Zelda 1. Like don't get me wrong, Zelda 1 was a classic for its time, but even back in the day, if you asked people what's your favorite thing about Zelda 1, nobody even back then would tell you, oh, those moments where I have to use the candle to burn every single bush on the screen until I accidentally find the one that's correct. Like that kind of stuff is never fun. It never was and never will be. It's just not fun because like that kind of stuff is only see, the reason later Zelda games implemented that thing where bumpable walls have cracks in them is because pixel hunting, it doesn't feel satisfying. It doesn't feel like you solved some kind of puzzle. It doesn't feel like you solved some kind of riddle in the game. It doesn't feel like an accomplishment because it didn't take skill from you. It just took luck, basically. Oh, I happened to find this thing not because of my skill, but because I just was patient enough to pixel hunt my way through this. You know, it's not a test of skill. It's a test of patience, and that's not good game design. It is not.
Remind me, was stuff like ammunition also limited in Zelda 1?
Yes, Zelda 1 had problems with ammunition. You can only carry 8 bombs at a time.
Oh God!
And remember,
bouncing in the walls thing very much a pain.
Now combine that, Joe, with the fact that bumpable walls didn't have cracks in them like in later games do. You can probably put one and one together and realize what the problem is. Yeah.
Yikes.
Exactly.
That game needs a remake.
Deji, I've been saying that for years, and yet for some reason the Link's Awakening, which didn't need a remake, got priority over it for some reason. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate the idea of giving Link's Awakening more exposure. I love that game, but Zelda 1 is the one that's in desperate need of a remake. Desperate.
I mean, there's something stopping them from remaking Zelda 1, though.
Oh, I get that. It's just that, from my perspective, if you're going to remake a Zelda game, remake Zelda 1. That's the one that desperately needs it. That's my point.
And Zelda 2.
Yeah,
I was about to mention, I actually wouldn't mind, in this day and age, considering how the success of the Dark Souls series, I think Nintendo could capitalize with a Zelda 2 remake.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. For as infamous as Zelda 2 was for being incredibly difficult, somehow I didn't find that one nearly as aggravating as Zelda 1.
Jova, it's mostly because they had the brilliant idea of putting Dev Mountain really near the beginning of your journey, completely unbalancing the difficulty spike that the game is supposed to have. That's literally just that.
All right.
Looking forward to Elden Ring.
And here you go. Here's another example of the rule of free. In order to
free owl statues.
Free places, free owl statues. There we go. And here's another one. Yeah. One thing that I haven't mentioned yet. Yeah. One cool thing that I like to do, and I see a lot of people do it on YouTube as well. You can put yourself on top of the obstacle, of the object the rod are carrying, and that way the rod will carry you there. That way you can just keep telling them where to go all the time. Because the way the rod walking works is that you have to point to where you want them to go. However, you can't go too far, and as indicated by the red light, by the blue light turning red, it's too far from the rod. They can't, like, you have to be closer to them. However, a good trick, like I just did, is put yourself on top of the thing they're carrying. That way, you're always in good enough distance from them to tell them where to go. So there you go. Bind multi-shot. Basically, when shooting a bound enemy, there's some extra bits of arrow that actually bind nearby enemies. So. Alright, and now let's carry the third and final statue. There we are. But no, I can see what Teo was saying. My issue with Zelda 2 is actually some stuff involving the mechanic. Like, one of the big problems with Zelda 2 is the knockback when you take damage, because
Castlevania bullshit.
Yep, that shit needs to go in a remake.
I know that the creator, the head of NT Creates, wants to make a Zelda 2 sequel.
Yeah,
you mentioned that, Pedro. You can actually unlock that as a feature. I forgot if it's unlockable from the get-go as a feature, or if it's something that you can have in the harder difficulty. But the Bloodstained Pixel spin-offs starring Zangetsu actually do have that, considering we're more inspired by classic Castlevania. They don't run it by default, but again, if I recall correctly, we're like part of the hard mode of it.
There you go. Some more eggplants. There we are. And that's it.
Also, it's super Edge.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
Edge. It's super ironic that, not even wanting it, Bloodstained managed to expand as a franchise more than what Mighty Number 9 ever promised.
Despite Bloodstained, I think only having the one game.
Was Yooka-Laylee was promised to be, branching out in something like a TV show or something?
No.
No. But they did want to make their own MCU universe, something like that.
Team 17 doesn't have that much of a range for having a crossover. Alright then.
Alright, see you for the next part, everybody, where we finish Chapter 1 and finally find out what happened to Taro. So, see you then.
See you then.
See ya.